witches, living skeletons, elves, and massive stone golems are the name of the game in this week's episode of Berserk, which has gone into full-on fantasy mode. This was like something out of a Tolkien novel, something out of Dungeons and Dragons, and it manages to fit perfectly in the super dark world of Berserk. This week's episode is something that I think a lot of old school Berserk fans are going to get really excited for, as we're this much closer to getting to the Berserker armor. Because in this week's episode, we are formally introduced to another brand new character who goes by the name of Schierke, the super cute, adorable little witch who happens to have the power to fight off trolls with ease. Not only that, but we are introduced to her master Flora, who is also going to be an incredibly important character in the series, and even has connections to some other really big characters in the Berserk universe. In fact, the witch Flora has actually been waiting for the arrival of Guts and Casca, and knows that they have actually been branded by the God Hand. But why does she have that knowledge? That's something that we're going to be finding out in next week's episode, but this one right here is one that you can just sort of kick back, relax, and enjoy all of the amazing imagery. Not to mention, they're doing a really great job of actually expanding and characterizing all of the brand new members of Guts' party, like Farnace and Isidro, and even Serpico. What I love about this episode is you get to see them as more than just the token side characters who are along for the ride. They're going to go through some pretty big changes, and a lot of those do have to do with the fact that they are traveling with Guts and Casca. Sleeping at night, not really much of an option, especially when you have a bunch of friggin' hungry trolls who just want to do nothing more than crack your skull open and suck out your brains through a damn straw. What I really loved about this episode, though, was just the imagery. It's starting to feel a little bit more like the actual Berserk manga series, and hardcore fans will take note that they are skipping certain elements of the story, but everything that they are trimming from that is basically just stuff that you really don't need to see. They're getting to the most important parts of the story, and in many ways I am very excited to see that. Still slightly disappointed that we're not seeing a perfect adaptation of the series, but then again, that's the beauty of this adaptation. If you don't like it, you can just go back and read the Berserk manga. But finally being able to see some of my favorite monsters from the series actually be brought to life in anime form is great. Like I said, the look of the trolls are just terrifying looking. They have these glowing red eyes, these massive noses, they're covered in this dark, matted black and gray fur, and they use a lot of really dangerous and blunt weapons like clubs and axes. And Isidro actually manages to do a pretty decent job against them, but as he's about to be killed, he is saved by Schierke in this week's episode, who's had a few small appearances throughout this adaptation, but gets her formal introduction in this week's episode, and she almost doesn't seem like she fits, like, within the confines of the Berserk world. She looks like a character from another anime series. She's probably one of the most, dare I say it, anime-looking characters in the series, but her abilities are going to be more than useful against all of these apostles and demons that they're going to be going up against, as she is a practitioner of magic. Yes, we are getting into magic in the series, and she manages to fend off the trolls by creating this like weird circle and hitting them with this like massive pentagram-styled attack which sends them flying. It's pretty damn cool. Her relationship with Isidro also is definitely going to be played up for laughs. When he actually thinks that she's an old woman at first, and then he ends up grabbing her chest, he ends up getting a fistful of magic and basically gets turned into a monkey. As they continue their journey, they meet this injured old man who is desperately looking for the house of this ancient witch by the name of Flora, who apparently is going to be very helpful to them in getting his village back, which has been completely ransacked by trolls. The problem is actually finding this place is damn near impossible. Many people don't even believe that it exists, and only children have actually claimed to see it, which is sort of a hint to say that you can't really get to this place unless you're actually meant to, or if you're actually pure of heart like a child. But luckily they do manage to find this place, which, unlike a lot of the other locales that you actually see in Berserk, is absolutely gorgeous. And it's all contained and designed around the concept of nature. In fact, when they actually walk upon this place for the first time, they're suddenly ambushed and attacked by all of these stone golems, which have the ability to regenerate. And unlike a lot of the other demons and monsters from the series, these ones are actually kind of cute. They're huggable, if you will. You just want to go up to them and just give them a big old freaking bear hug. But the problem is they're also made of stone, and they'll probably kill you too. And they keep trying to attack them, but they keep on regenerating. Luckily, they find out that in order to take them out, they have these little dolls inside of their body, which if you can actually take out and destroy, that's going to be the end of them. I specifically loved this one shot where Guts takes his sword, swings it down on top of them, and while that doll is in midair, he punches it with his fake arm. It looks so damn badass. It's the type of scene that even in the manga version it looks cool, but here they really did it justice. And getting to see all of their signature and unique fighting styles during the scene was really fun. Even Serpico, who still manages to use his fencing style abilities to simply just pinpoint where it's going to be and poke right through it with his sword. It's just damned awesome. But eventually they are stopped, the stone golems are called off, and Schierke decides to greet them and invite them inside of the house, where they meet Master Flora, who's got to be one of the most pleasant beings in the Berserk series, and of course she knows the secrets behind what's really going on with Guts and Casca. But that's all for next week's episode. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Berserk? So many things going on in this episode. Like I said, they spend a lot of time for characterization for some of the people. Like, you have Farnese, who has this sort of like insuperiority complex going on, if that's even a word. Basically, she feels worthless, like she's just there to babysit Casca and she can't really do anything else. And in the beginning of the episode, she actually ends up losing Casca, but luckily, thanks to Casca's hunger, she does manage to make her way back to base camp. And then you have Serpico, who basically makes it clear to Guts that the only reason he's even associating himself with him is because of Farnese in the first place. If she wanted nothing to do with him, he would probably just want to get into another badass sword fight with him, which is something that I would like to see. But the character who I think got the most development this week had to be Isidro, who is still going through a lot of training with Guts, trying to be a better swordsman, and trying to be more unpredictable. And frankly, it's just not fair when he's going up against Guts. Guts makes him look like an absolute fool. But I do like the fact that Puck brought up that his real skills lie in the ability to use rocks and to use his precision, and even to use more than one of them at once. And he's going to be able to eventually use that unpredictability to save them in battle a couple of times in the series, and I assure you it's going to be very thrilling to see. That and the fact that him and Puck just adds so much humor to the series, which for the most part has none of it at all, and I really do applaud them for doing that. And we have another new elf in the series to go along with Puck. That's Eva Lara, who is the good friend of Schierke, basically her sidekick in the series. So we now have a female elf who looks very similar to Puck in many senses, except that of course she is feminine, she's pink, and she has a lot of freaking attitude. Trust me, we're going to see a lot of that in the future. But this episode right here is basically like the straight introduction to Schierke the Witch, and the fact that magic does exist in this world, which of course does fit, and starts to let us see more of the fantasy side of Berserk. This is going to be like a big turning point for the series, and it's something that you'll all definitely want to check out. So, this was a great episode right here, the introduction of the trolls, which are fan-favorite characters from the series. They're really damn creepy, and trust me, they haven't even shown what they're truly capable of quite yet. We're getting ready to start the next big arc of the series, and trust me, it's going to end with some really cool shit. On the technical side of things, this week's episode looked okay for the most part. There were a lot of really good thrilling action sequences, but there's still those moments where the CG characters just don't look right. Maybe it's just the angles, maybe it's the scene where they're talking to the dude who has all of the sheep that aren't moving at all and they basically look like just a bunch of mannequins standing around. There are just some times where it just frankly doesn't look that good, and I'd really love to be in the room when they're actually approving these shots so I could say, no, don't do that, give me another 2D scene, because the 2D scenes look pretty good, but a lot of the times when the CG is used on the monsters, I think it's a lot more effective, but only because they don't look human. They have this otherworld quality to them, so that when they actually do move around in CG, it actually does make them seem a little more terrifying, and you definitely got to see that with the characters like the trolls and even the stone golems in this episode. And Schierke is a fan-favorite character. She's one of the coolest characters from the series, and like I said, she's going to be another important element of this story. We'll get to learn a little bit more about her in next week's episode, as well as her master and why she is so revered. So, great episode right here. I actually really did like it, despite the fact that some of the animation moments looked a little wonky. So, I'm going to give this week's episode right here a 4 out of 5. This was an exciting episode of Berserk, and it's finally starting to get into the part of the story which is my absolute favorite portion of the series, so I highly recommend that you guys decide to check it out. If you're just a casual fan, check it out too, and if you read the manga, check it out. You might see something you like, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you guys are thinking about it. So make sure to tell me in the comments section below what you thought about this week's episode of Berserk. What did you think of the introduction of Schierke the Witch, and the weird, creepy trolls and the stone golems? What do you hope to see in the next couple episodes of Berserk? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Berserk anime related. Make sure to leave me a comment about this week's episode. I'd love to talk with you guys about it. And of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I will see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.